Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe is now declassifying some documents.
Fox's Alex Hogan. Meanwhile, Russia's leader praises President Trump as he gives his thoughts on the election.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says he's noted what he calls sharp and...
So, Shelby, let's start with you. You say that our bogs and marshes should actually be paved over.
That's right. Absolutely, Brooke. These things are nothing but dead body dumping pits that make life easy for murderers. And it's disgusting to me that sickos like Mr. Popkin actually want to protect these things.
All right, well, Mr. Popkin, how do you respond to this?
Bogs and marshes are important ecosystems that should be protected. I mean, they're already being endangered.
Whoa, excuse me. As long as these human landfills remain open for business, what we're essentially saying to the criminal element is, sure, do whatever you like, and throw the evidence here in this federally protected black hole.
I testified before Senator Chuck Grassley, who wanted to lift federal protection on these lands, and what I told him is exactly what I'm going to tell you now.
And where is Chuck Grassley right now, sir? Could it be that he's sitting at the bottom of a bog somewhere? Why else would you be so hot on these wetlands if you aren't a murderer yourself?
This is the Onion News Network.
The manatee is a solitary creature, drifting along in the warm, peaceful shallows. They are not usually held in a small glass enclosure with 3 other male manatees hell-bent on the violent, forced sex that I, for real, saw with my own eyes while alone one night at SeaWorld, San Diego. A distant relative of the elephant, the manatee has a prehensile upper lip which it uses to gather food. It also has a large penis. Classified as endangered, human boaters often cause serious wounds to manatees' flippers, rendering it difficult for this one poor little rescue manatee to escape a large male manatee intent on unwanted anal intercourse. One needed not to look in that little manatee victim's cold, soul-sapped eyes to know this was not the first time this had happened, nor would it be the last.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. That's right, it is Free Talk Live, and you are free to call in and talk live here on the airwaves. It's Mark with you.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
The number is 855-450-3733. It's 855-450, free as in freedom. And we do this every night of the week from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. No matter where you are, we are here doing the program. So please call in, talk about whatever is on your mind, and let's jump into a topic that at this point I am pretty well obsessed with. I don't know if you guys are aware that there was another person shot in protests. I think this one was in Denver this week. Yeah, it just keeps happening.
I'm hearing of it.
What's that?
First I'm hearing of it.
Yeah, this was, I guess the person who was shot pepper sprayed a security guard, and the security guard shot him. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there.
Security guards generally only shoot you if you're messing up badly, unlike some other agencies.
I think the security guard, I think he also slapped the security guard. So I'm not claiming that, the deadly force is acceptable. I'm not here to go one way or the other on that particular issue. But I will say that violence is escalating towards this election. And there are suggestions that the election will be just the beginning. Depending on what the results are and who's happy and unhappy with the results.
Well, unlike most elections, there's I don't think there's any calling when the election will be over exactly, because there are so many people that are planning on sending in their vote this year that for once we can be pretty much certain that when they finish counting the in-person votes, we won't know who should be or shouldn't be the president.
As I understand it, you're supposed to have the votes in by a certain day for them to count. I mean, it's not like I can wait a year and then send my vote in and suddenly Trump gets yanked out of office or something.
Actually, as long as it's postmarked before the due date, then it can be found a decade later and theoretically still counts.
I suppose. I mean, I don't know how that, from a practical standpoint, how they're going to make that work. But again, there's this whole mail-in voting because of COVID thing, and what's that going to look like? On one hand,
good question. And I mean, it's really important to know that they have done extensive work to graph out what demographics are in what areas. So, I mean, I don't trust sending $1 through the mail, like an actual physical dollar. You've got to put it in a money order if you want to send it through the mail. And yet these votes, presumably have some value to some people.
And when you send cash, you don't write on the outside of the envelope, this contains X dollars in cash, whereas a mail-in ballot is marked as a mail-in ballot.
Right. It's very clear what it is. It doesn't have, whereas, so if somebody wanted to steal it for whatever reason, say your postman worked a neighborhood where he knew the majority of people were Democrats and he's a Republican, or vice versa, you fill in. I don't particularly care. I'm not presuming that one side is more moral than the other. And I do presume that people think the stakes are quite high.
Mm-hmm.
And
although I feel like there's one party who is much, much more likely to mail in votes, both in general and especially in this election. And maybe this is just their setup to say that they actually won when they lose.
Well, I would say that, so the Democrats want more people to vote, which has always been their shtick.
And they want it to be as easy as possible. If you can't make it to the polling place, you don't need to vote.
Right. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but if you just don't have the time and the energy to make it to a location, and you can't put together the skill set to get a government ID, I don't care, honestly. I mean, I've missed votes because I hadn't registered in time and done a variety of things, and I'm fine with that. And I'm okay with the fact that I missed it. And, if
you'd had your stuff together, you would have gotten that vote.
Right.
And you didn't, so you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't, so I didn't. And I voted absentee this go around, and I got to see what it was like at my household when we were voting absentee. And everybody's watching what everybody else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that one person who was involved changed the vote that they would have made because they were being watched and things were being said.
It's also true that the person who sits around unemployed at home all day, probably the Democrat, has access to everyone's ballots if it's going to come in the mail before they do. So
I just think about this like the college, like what they called a college house when I was in college, where it wasn't a fraternity. It wasn't a dormitory. It was simply a house where college students lived for a long time. If for whatever reason the town, the municipality, determined that you lived at this house, there's no reason. I know for a fact right now that I am registered to vote in 2 locations. Now, it's because the one location hasn't ceased to have me as a registrant. It's not my fault. I didn't do anything. They just didn't do it. They were in a system of transition, town clerk left, and all that stuff, and it didn't get done. And I have no idea how long I'll be on their voter rolls. I'm not going to go there and vote, so there's no criminality that's involved, but I know that I'm on. So what if they send out a ballot to my previous address? What if that previous address had a whole bunch of people living at it? What if somebody lives there now who's like, oh, look at all these ballots from these people who don't live here any longer. I shall fill them out.
Yeah, I've got a post office box, and I am just wondering if I'm going to end up with a bunch of mail-in ballots that I didn't ask for.
And I just got a thing today that said you are the victim of mail theft. And they said that I got some mail stolen. That doesn't make me feel real good about my ballot. Whereas I'm much more comfortable with the idea that when I walk in and vote and I drop it in the little wooden box, that it's getting counted. In fact, I've stood there and watched that whole process from beginning to end one day. Just stood in the room, watched people voting, chit-chatted with people, kept my eye on the box, and this was during the Ron Paul campaign when I actually cared.
I've
don't care enough now.
stayed around for the results a couple of times, and you watch them start to finish, and they seem to do it properly.
Right. But it's the stuff that's unaccounted for, these mail-in ballots. These things disturb me. Anyway, all of this stuff's the foundation, right? Like, I have no faith in the American voting system right now, or little faith. And at some point, people are going to, when they get this kind of feeling, they may very well slip into this mindset of civil war like USA Today is talking about. Here, I have an article. It says the country's lost its mind. Polls warning of civil war. Violence shows deep partisan chasm over election. And I don't think it's going to be over at the election. So if the Democrats lose or win, or the Republicans lose or win, you're going to already we can see people are unhappy. Right? If the Democrats win or lose, even if it was legitimate win or loss, there's going to be people who are angry enough at the Trump supporters and white supremacy and God knows what else.
And it's hard enough to figure out whether it's a legitimate win or loss.
Right. And then with the Trump presidency, it's going to be even more difficult because he's already laid the foundations for muddying the waters as far as, hey, these mail-in ballots are legitimate, and I don't know if I'm going to get out of office and concede. I'm sure he'd concede if he felt that the election was legitimately lost, but people aren't very good at determining what a legitimate loss is. I mean, if human history is any indication, we are bad at determining what a legitimate loss is. And, I mean, you can talk to people right now about how they feel about the 2000 election 20 years ago, and passions will run high. I suspect they will run higher after this election, and what does that mean?
Well, and it was finally the candidates involved that called off that one, and that is not going to happen this year.
Right. Al Gore conceded.
Right. Joe
Biden has been told by Hillary Clinton not to.
And we all know Trump's not going to concede if he doesn't think this is
He's never
legitimate.
conceded a thing in his life. 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE here on Free Talk Live.
News from news.bitcoin.com. Economist claims that value of US dollar will descend by 35% in the next year, and the dollar is the most overrated major currency in the world today. U.S. Federal Reserve is actively working on turning the U.S. dollar into a digital currency. Bitcoin set a new record for time above $10,000 in value. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
Do you want more businesses accepting Bitcoin Cash and Dash? Now with AnyPay, you earn passive income for every purchase at those businesses. Finally, a financial incentive to spread Bitcoin Cash and Dash. You made it happen, so you receive the rewards. Download the AnyPay Cash Register app and add your cryptocurrency wallet addresses. Then install it at a real-life business and tell us what you did at AnyPayInc.com. AnyPayInc.com.
Free Talk Live is aired on nearly 200 radio stations throughout the week, and we've been doing this for almost 18 years. You can call in any evening from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern to talk about whatever's on your mind. Sure, you can waste your time on Facebook and reach dozens of surly posters, or you can call in with your issue and reach 3 surly hosts. Oh, and nearly 500,000 weekly listeners. The number is 1-855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, as in freedom.
Hi, I'm Montel Williams. Most of you know me as a talk show host, but I'm also an author, actor, single father of 4, a fitness writer, avid snowboarder, and I'm also a medical marijuana patient. Like many of the million people who are living with multiple sclerosis, I'm in pain every single day. And sometimes my nerves are so raw that if you brushed up against me in an elevator, I'd scream. I can't sleep at night from the pain, and sometimes the spasms in my legs are so intense they will wake me up throughout the night. I've tried the strongest prescription medications available, and I'm going to tell you, they do not work. In fact, they leave me in a stupor, and most of the time, it's impossible to even live your life. Now, I've tried medical marijuana, and I'm going to tell you something, it works. If you'd like more information about medical marijuana, you can contact the Marijuana Policy Project at MPP.org or call 1-877-JOIN-MPP.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio is great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Some of our live shows are streamed in HD on Twitch. Please follow and share at twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. Call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE, as in freedom. Before we get into this article here from the USA Today about the country losing its mind and the possibility of civil war, I want to tell you about Bitcoin.com. Bitcoin.com is, it's a website about the phenomenon that is Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. These things are actual huge leaps forward in technology towards peace. You cannot talk about war and division without talking about monetary policy, because monetary policy has been manipulated in such a way to advance war and division for centuries.
You can't afford a war without fiat currency, and that's been the case since at least World War I, probably since the American Civil War.
Wars have gotten more expensive. They certainly fought wars prior to fiat currency.
Nothing compared to the ones afterward.
But one thing that we could say is that, well, let's see. You kind of needed a king in order to go extract, specie, actual money of value from the peasantry. They didn't have it, but they did have grain and these sorts of things, bought and sold, and a variety of stuff in order to finance wars. Anyway, I think it's fair to say that cryptocurrency advances peace, freedom, and personal responsibility. Bitcoin.com is a website all about this particular aspect of cryptocurrency. And I recommend you go there, find out about Bitcoin, check out their Getting Started section. If you're a longtime crypto user, check out the news.bitcoin.com. News.bitcoin.com will tell you all the latest news. And, the headlines are great. It's useful. You can get on their RSS feed and get delivered the headlines. So it's bitcoin.com. Cannot recommend it enough.
And it's good to have a site to send someone to where they're, hey, I'd like to learn about this.
Right. They can buy, they can sell, they can mine, they can do whatever you want to do that has to do with cryptocurrency right there at bitcoin.com. The country's lost its mind. Polls warning of civil war, violence, deep partisan chasms over election. Washington, Ledyard King writing. Washington, Bill Fry, 61, is a supporter of President Donald Trump in rural Ohio, who doesn't share much in common politically with Matt Edelman, 29, a Joe Biden backer in Brooklyn, New York. Except this. They both worry about the legitimacy of the upcoming presidential election and fear an outcome that appears tainted could heighten fears that appears tainted could heighten the nation's already frayed psyche and exacerbate violence in the streets. So I guess what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is first ask yourself the question is violence going on in the streets? Because I think that is pretty clear.
And is an escalated amount of violence going on in the streets? Because in some places, there's always a sustained amount of violence going on in the streets. It's easy to forget that in Keene or even Manchester.
There's always violence in the street, but it's not always about who's going to be elected.
Yeah, they usually just want your stuff.
Yeah, it's usually just straight up robbery or something like that. Maybe there's a political component or an issue.
Usually politically simple.
Yeah, to some extent. So now we do have violence going on the street. It is politically motivated. And what happens if more of it occurs? Is this sort of one of those kind of curves where it, shoots upward into something bad? I don't know, but I've been concerned about it for some time. They're not alone.
It's also interesting because it kind of indicates that people had a whole lot of faith in federal elections in the first place to be able to lose it.
I think that people are I think it's Trump, honestly. People aren't excited about Joe Biden. He sucks. He's sucked for a long time. Democrats don't like him. But they really hate Donald Trump, and they would take just about anything over him. And the people who love Donald Trump love him. They're really excited about him. I mean, if you can get just about every American to come up with some kind of opinion on Donald Trump, no matter what that opinion is. And thus, there you have a powder keg. Nobody's going to shoot anybody over Mitt Romney. Nobody's going to shoot anybody over John McCain. But over Donald Trump, they might just, is what it seems. Because Donald Trump has been painted as both the greatest of saviors and the most evilest of oppressors. Even Barack Obama, who was heralded as a savior, no doubt. Interesting title for a man who is responsible for the shelling of a hospital and killed, whose nickname was Drone Bomber, having fired more cruise missiles than all other Peace Prize winners combined. But
there's some selection bias in there, but
well,
the point stands.
What, that the cruise missiles?
Well, because most Peace Prize, I mean, maybe that's not been true for the past couple of years, but I imagine that most Peace Prize winners, maybe I'm just really wrong and thinking that most Peace Prize winners have something to do with peace and aren't politicians.
They used to have a long-standing policy of not awarding the Nobel Peace Prize to anyone who is leading a military at war at the time.
Makes sense.
Yeah, well, at the time he was...
let alone
I don't know that he was even in office.
6 wars or however many it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was even in office when he got the Peace Prize. The Peace Prize was sort of, hey, you look more peaceful than George Bush. Here you go, is what it seemed like to me. Anyway, very few people really considered Barack Obama to be an evil person, a bad person. It just wasn't going that direction. Some people thought that he was born in Kenya, which I suppose is possible. It doesn't seem likely.
Muslim.
What's that?
Or a secret Muslim.
A secret Muslim, a gay man hiding behind, his beard of a wife. Whatever they thought, none of these things were bad enough to sort of pick up arms over.
Well,
but not literally Hitler.
None of them are particularly relevant to his job, regardless of what you think his job should be.
Right. Anyway, they're not alone, those being the people that are worried about violence, like me. A new poll shows a large swath of Americans harbor deep reservations about the election results weeks before Election Day and are concerned about what actions people might resort to as a consequence. The YouGov poll of nearly 2,000 registered voters, and that's what we would call good enough as far as taking people, found that nearly half disagree with the idea that the election is likely to be fair and honest. So 47% of Americans, according to this YouGov poll, which is what they call
that's a really broad question, though. That can mean many things.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but is there anything that the government does that is less trusted than the mail? I mean, it's in the mail is a figure of speech for I'll get it to you eventually.
I hope it gets there.
And it may get there. I mean... And they took like the most important thing that people trust and they put it inside the thing that they trust the least.
Well, what's the thing they trust the most? The ballot?
It's the most important thing that they trust.
Important thing. So I would say that Americans, I met a lot of people that didn't trust voting beforehand.
Sure.
And I think that with all the stuff that's been floated surrounding this COVID thing, they trust it less now. I mean, you can go and you can vote at the polls, but somewhere, somebody's filling out a ballot for somebody who's mentally incapacitated, and they're going to send it in and cancel out your vote. 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. Free Talk Live.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm.
Love what we do? Please help support our international satellite channels at patreon.lrn.fm. That's patreon.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. Call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
The number is 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. And we're talking about this USA Today article here that's suggesting that a civil war is possible. And that is a concern that many Americans have, I guess is what it's doing. And it's a concern that I have because I don't know how one starts. And I don't know how we define what a civil war is. I don't think we're talking military, rolled out against one side or the other. But there's a great deal of tension out there.
Usually civil wars have a government and another government. Usually, or at least a presumptive government and another presumptive government.
Yeah, so if you're competent, it's a civil war. If you're incompetent, it's really just civil unrest.
So you'd have to make a few. You have to make a few broad generalizations, but that's kind of what nations are, right? So do we have a group of city dwellers that prefer the Democrats over the Republicans and are angry at some level of subjugation? I would say, yeah, we've got that. That's a fair description. Do we have country dwellers who prefer the Republicans over the Democrats and fear an unfair election and thus a form of subjugation?
Yeah, but I'm very skeptical about the possibility of there being sufficient leadership on the Republican side to carry out a civil war, to be honest.
Do you mean a military leadership?
Sure. For example, I have no problem believing that there would be sufficient unity under the Democratic Party leadership to carry out a civil war. But the Republican Party leadership isn't sufficient for anything like that right now.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you're helping me formulate how this could work. But if you think that the Democrats are sufficiently organized, then could the military be used to quell that organization if they're violent? That violent organization?
It'd be very difficult right now because of the current commander-in-chief. Now, post-January, maybe.
Well, hold on. So the military is by and large Republican. Military leadership. So military enlisted men vote about 50-50, like the rest of us do.
We always kind of work off the assumption that they're going to tell the foot soldiers exactly what they're doing and why. That's not how it usually works. They don't, just like they don't tell the military that goes to Afghanistan, hey, we would really like to preserve our status as world reserve currency, so why don't you go kill a bunch of kids? They don't tell them that. They're like, there are some terrorists. They blow up our buildings. Like that guy did it in the hut. There's no reason why they would magically become truthful for a domestic uprising and say, these people.
But it's going to be pretty easy to tell that you're on American soil. And I think there are a surprising number of...
they're going to lie to them about who their targets are.
Posse Comitatus was retired under the Bush administration. So military can operate on U.S. soil. But
legally.
The reason that you have boots on the ground, the reason you need infantry is to hold ground. The United States government doesn't need to hold the United States. It already has it. No one's disputing the land. So I would say... I'd ask this question is, do we have the ability to run computerized warfare in so much as we can, have drones to do targeted bombings and assassinations? Do we have the ability to basically, take down people's internet en masse? A city's internet, if that's what they needed to do. I think that, I don't know what it would look like, and I don't know how many bodies we're talking about here either. I don't know, and I'm not.
So potentially the very first robot war.
I'm not rubbing my hands over, hoping that this occurs. I'm quite the opposite, but I see a formula for something that could look like a civil war, civil unrest. I don't know what it would look like, and I don't know what the outcome would be, and I don't know what else to say. But let me go through some of these statistics here. This is from the YouGov poll. 2,000 registered voters found that nearly half think that the election, they disagree with the idea that the election is likely to be fair and honest. So they are basically saying, this is double negative here, the election will not be fair and honest. And slightly more than half, so instead of 47%, 51% won't. generally agree on who is legitimately elected president of the United States. So they're not saying that they won't, but they won't say that there's a general consensus on who is legitimately elected president of the United States. The online poll was conducted October the 1st and 2nd and has a margin of error of almost 3 percentage points. So basically, somewhere near half of Americans do not expect the election to be fair and do not expect the outcome to be accepted. That's bad news.
And if you don't think that the outcome will be, obvious and accepted, then you're a lot less likely to accept it yourself.
Right. I mean, at this point, do I think the election is going to be fair? Hell no, I don't. I didn't think they were fair to begin with. I was surprised to see Trump win. I know the Democrats were surprised to see Trump win. You can see pictures all over the internet of surprised Democrats. And are they working to make sure that doesn't,
to the heavens?
Yeah. Are they working to make sure that doesn't happen again? Yes. If they are working to make sure that doesn't happen again, are some of them on either side willing to participate in nefarious activity? Absolutely.
Nefarious activity in politics, perish the thought.
In addition to a YouGov poll, another YouGov poll here, 1,500 voters found that 56% said that they expect to see an increase in violence as a result of the election. More than half expect to see an increase in violence as a result of the election. This question is a margin of error of 4.2 percentage points. So, again, basically that same half of Americans, they don't believe the election is going to be fair. They don't believe people are going to accept the result. And they expect to see an increase in violence as a result of the election. Now, I'm not saying that there's going to be civil unrest, except, yeah, there's going to be civil unrest.
There is civil unrest now.
Right. I mean, how much more? Does it go from, how does it multiply? Does it go from 1 shooting a week to 2 shootings a week to 4 shootings a week to 8 shootings a week? What does it look like?
Until it's enough to have popular support for a government overreaction, which it's hard to overreact to a riot, but it can be done.
But right now you have government agents that were sent out and they were disappearing people. Just very recently, they were going and they were grabbing people without arrest, with civil rights violations, a whole variety of things that were going on. And look, in war, you don't worry about civil rights violations.
But they were doing it to the rioters. They weren't enacting general totalitarianism,
sure,
using the riots as an excuse.
And I wouldn't expect that general totalitarianism would occur in the vast majority of the United States. But the vast majority of the United States doesn't have a large population. In population centers, it might.
If you're abducting random leaders of protests, that's pretty darn totalitarian.
Well, were they abducting random leaders of protests, or were they abducting random leaders of riots? Because those are two very different things.
There is a very blurry line between those two.
No, there's not.
No, there really is a very blurry line between protest and riot in this particular case.
A protest is asking for something. A riot is when you go and break things and steal things and hurt people.
Protests are very frequently demanding something rather than asking for it. I mean, so...
But if you just say, I demand X, and that's all you do...
Okay.
You're asking for.
Well, so for one thing, in Portland, I know that what would usually happen is that you would have a protest until about 9 or 10 o'clock.
PM?
PM. And then at 9 or 10 o'clock, that protest would morph partly from a shift of people there and partly from a shift of attitude, but it would change from a protest into a riot.
And that's exactly...
But that means there are two different things if it can change from one to the other.
Well, the fact is that we have been led to believe that peaceful protesters are setting buildings on fire by some in the media. And there certainly have been peaceful protesters, and there certainly have been burning buildings. And I don't know who's doing what, but... it doesn't look good. 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. What do you think? Free Talk Live.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate an endless supply of natural silver solutions. Silverlungs.com. You'll find no wild claims or pseudoscience, just a lifetime of nano-sized pure silver solutions. The Silver Lungs generator allows you to make your own, so stop paying for silver solutions. The unique lung delivery system targets respiratory infections where other silver solutions simply cannot reach. See the Silver Lungs generator and lung delivery system at silverlungs.com. That's silverlungs.com.
When you have a pain in the neck, a real pain in the neck, back, shoulder, or legs, you now have 2 convenient choices to get fast relief without taking another pill. Because now, Sunny Bay heating wraps and pillows are available at both Amazon and Walmart. Yes, see Sunny Bay's 4.5 to 5-star customer reviews on Amazon.com or Walmart.com. Our made in the USA microwavable heat wraps, heatable neck pillows, and extra large body wraps are designed better for perfect support where and when you need it. Even while driving, Sunny Bay wraps will not burn and stay balanced to provide soothing hot or cold therapy to help treat temporary or chronic pain. And the best part? Sunny Bay quality products start at under $20. Join thousands of happy customers and see why Sunny Bay products have a lifetime 100% positive rating on both Amazon and Etsy. It's easy. Click Amazon or Walmart and search today for Sunny Bay.
Hi, I'm Dan Pilla. I started fighting the IRS over 40 years ago when they tried to seize my mother's house. I sued the IRS and won. I beat the IRS then, and I've been beating them ever since. I wrote the book on tax debt settlement, and I've helped thousands of people deal with tax problems they thought might never be solved. I can help you too. If you owe taxes you can't pay, don't wait another day. There's no such thing as a hopeless tax case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to my website, danpilla.com. That's danpilla.com, danpilla.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Now you can follow LRN.FM on the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. The number is 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE as in freedom. And we're reading a story here from USA Today about Americans' concerns surrounding, a peaceful transition of power coming up here in this election. I think a lot of people are waiting to see what happens before they really know what to do. I mean, you don't want to participate in some sort of violent uprising if the result was going to be what you wanted it to be in the first place. So, yeah, it's a concern. The number 855-450-3733. I want to tell you about Freedom's Phoenix. It's a liberty-oriented news aggregation site. Do you want the newest and freshest stories and perspectives on current events from those who value liberty? freedomsphoenix.com has it. Their daily dispatch, which I get, by the way, and it's twice daily now, is the best way to stay up to date on science, technology, historical findings, liberty news, government overspending, and the rise of the police state. Freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. That's freedomsphoenix.com. And as an endorsement, I get probably 200 emails a day. And most of them, you're lucky if I read the subject line before I delete it, because I got to get through and do the stuff that I got to do. Nobody pays me for looking at the emails that I get. However, I always read freedomsphoenix.com from front to, top to bottom. So there you go. Freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. Back to the article. Now, if you'll remember, this article is one of those written with a couple of people invited. So here's a voter. His name's Fry. Fry and many other Trump supporters. For Fry and many other Trump supporters, the concern over the election's legitimacy is tied to the largely unproven, with a link, claims Trump has raised about potential fraud involving millions of mail-in ballots that already have begun to pour into election offices around the nation.
Now, what I've seen on that is that while there's not a huge amount of voter fraud that does happen in general anyway, it is much higher in mail-in voting. But mind you, that's a difference of it goes from 1% to 4% or something like that.
Well, 4% will decide an election in certain battleground counties. And this basically puts into the hands of one mail carrier, in some cases, some of the most important votes.
And that's one thing. I mean, every step of the way, whether it's just someone opening your particular mailbox while you're not home, the mail carrier, just every single step of the way from when you put it in to when it gets counted, they're just it's just such terrible security.
Right. So the difference between an absentee ballot is what they call chain of custody. Basically, I had an absentee ballot this year. I faxed a request to the government of the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas Islands asking for my ballot. And, pardon me, they sent it to me. I'm off island because it's a FEMA declared emergency. And when it stops, I'll be back. But they sent me my ballot. I filled it out. I put it in the way they asked me to. We slid it back into one of those blue mailboxes, not the thing at the end of the driveway. Now, remember, a lot of Americans can't necessarily make it to the blue mailbox. If they can't make it to a polling place, or they can't put together the skill set to get a driver's license or a government form of ID, then how in the world are they going to make it to a mailbox? I don't know.
Well, and even then, I mean, that is still a point of vulnerability. I mean, like I said, there is a huge tendency for people in certain areas to vote certain ways. So if you oppose that particular way that this area votes, I mean, what's to, keep you from putting a hose in that blue mailbox that everyone uses? Apart from it being a federal crime.
Well, what do you mean put a hose? Like a water hose?
Yeah.
And just drenching everything and making all the mail useless?
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly could happen. Yeah, anyway, it's a difficult situation, and I don't trust this mail system, and I don't I was explaining the difference between an absentee ballot and a mail-in ballot. A mail-in ballot, on the other hand, is sent out to presumably every voter in the given area to the address that they have listed on their ballot, with the hopes that they will return it, and the hopes that somebody who finds it doesn't fill it out and return it for them. Some Americans have lived at the same place for 40 years. This system will probably work for them. Some Americans have moved every 2 years of their entire lives. And you can't presume to know where people are going to be. I know that currently that my name is on the voter rolls in a town in which I haven't lived for some time. So there you go. The concern of the election, that have already begun to pour into election offices around the nation. We would be foolish not to at least accept that it's a real thing that happens sometimes. And I just worry it's going to happen in a greater numbers this year, Fry said, a Marine veteran who owns a dental management company in Ohio. And lots of my friends think the same thing. Lots of Americans, as mentioned here earlier, with basically half of Americans thinking that, according to this poll, they disagree, that they think that the election is unlikely to be fair and honest. They think that the legitimacy of the election is liable to be questioned generally, and that they expect to see an increase in violence as a result of the election. So, I don't disagree with Mr. Fry here. For Edelman and the other Biden supporters, the worry is that Trump's unrelenting criticism of the mail-in ballots and his refusal to agree to a peaceful transition of power if he loses is the proof that he'll stop at little to reverse what Edelman believes to be an electoral defeat, given polls showing that Biden with a significant lead nationally. Now, I'm more interested in Biden's lead in states as opposed to a national poll because, Hillary won the national vote and Trump beat her in, electoral college. So national polls don't matter. I don't care what people in Hawaii and California think.
And even state by state, I mean, she was leading those polls and didn't win.
There's only a handful of states that really matter at least for polling purposes.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you live in a state that is thoroughly red or thoroughly blue, then you might as well vote for the Libertarian because, your state's going to go the direction it goes.
Well, that was Walter Block's suggestion for last election. If you live in a purple state, vote for Trump. If you live in a red or blue state, vote for whoever it was.
Walter Block claiming the banner of libertarianism and often making controversial claims.
Well, that's kind of his thing, defending the indefendable,
Well, it certainly seems like a reasonable suggestion in that case. I mean, if you really like one candidate over the other and you live in a swing state, then it's a lot more reasonable to vote the lesser of two evils than if you live in a state that you know which way it's going. You may as well vote your conscience.
Yeah, voting becomes a lot more morally complex when you live in a purple state, which New Hampshire is one.
Voting becomes morally complex if you live in a purple state. Can you...
It becomes more morally complex when you live in a purple state, at least specifically for presidential elections and in elections where you have a R, a D, and an L.
Okay.
So an actual L, not an LP. I mean, they're going to be listed as LP, but an actual good candidate who has no chance of winning. Because if you live in a thoroughly red state or a thoroughly blue state, it's really easy to be like, well, this is what's the result's going to be. It's a foregone conclusion. I already know, so I'm going to vote for the anarchists just as a FU to the system. If you live in a purple state, your vote might matter for some things. So it becomes so do I vote for the, quote, right person who's not going to win and lose the election, or do I vote for somebody who's evil, but...
you can vote for one person and root for another. Because the vote is so mathematically insignificant when we're talking about a president. I mean, you take your least populous state, that would be a purple state, and I don't know which one it is, but New Hampshire's in the running for that.
It might be New Hampshire.
Yeah, New Hampshire's in the running for that. I believe it was the closest as far as ballots. It swung for Hillary, but only barely in this 2016 election. I think it was only 1,500 votes or something to that effect, which we know that Florida was 500 votes separating back in 2000, and that was quite controversial. New Hampshire wasn't controversial. Nobody seemed to care, but it could have gone the other way. But 1,500 still isn't one, and one is all the votes that you get.
There's probably at least 1,500 people still in the Porcupine community in New Hampshire. We could swing the election by either not voting or effectively not voting.
What is effectively? Oh, effectively not
voting for
Jo Jorgensen,
or your cousin, or Phil, because we have write-ins in New Hampshire. So
people
anything
do,
other than the two.
Yeah, people do vote for Mickey Mouse and these sorts of things, and those votes could go someplace else, changing the result. But, they're their votes and they get to decide. 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE here on Free Talk Live.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be a part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for people to use it for everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that is as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
She's not suited for the Supreme Court. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. That's what Democratic lawmakers are saying about Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett, whose confirmation hearings began Monday on Capitol Hill. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer criticizing the judge.
Given Judge Barrett's conflicts of interest, she should recuse herself from any decision involving the Affordable Care Act and its protections, and any decision related to the election.
Democrats argue Barrett will strip people with pre-existing conditions of their health care and overturn abortion rights. Senate Republicans praise her record and ask for a speedy confirmation. Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
If the discussions next week are about her record and her jurisprudence and her fitness to be a judge, great. That's what the Senate should be doing. If it becomes personal attacks, I very much hope the Democrats refrain from doing that.
Cruz on NBC's Meet the Press. President Trump says he feels great after receiving an experimental COVID-19 antibody treatment. The White House doctor says the president is no longer at risk of transmitting the disease, clearing the way for Mr. Trump to travel to a rally in Florida tomorrow to kick off the final weeks before the election. Joe Biden will campaign in Cincinnati and Toledo, in a state that Democrats lost in 2016. Progress being made in Louisiana to restore power following Hurricane Delta. Governor John Bell Edwards with an update.
I was briefed that we are down statewide to 348,609 power outages, which means almost 50% of all outages related to Delta have been restored in the first 24 hours.
Edwards says thousands remain in shelters, but most the result of Hurricane Laura that hit 6 weeks earlier. America is listening to Fox News.
Adjusting to a new normal means we need to be smart about how we do business. Thousands of small business owners have discovered the benefits of Stamps.com and kept their businesses running while avoiding trips to the post office. With Stamps.com, you can print postage on demand and you'll never pay full price, with access to discounted rates you can't even get at the post office, like 5 cents off every stamp and up to 62% off USPS and UPS shipping rates. Don't waste time at the post office or UPS store. Print official stamps and labels right from your home or office computer for any letter, any package, anywhere you want to send. Once your mail's ready, just leave it for your mail carrier, schedule a free package pickup, or drop it off. It's a no-brainer. Right now, listeners get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus free postage, and a digital scale with no long-term commitment. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in Fox. That's Stamps.com. Enter Fox. Stamps.com. Enter Fox.
President Trump praising his COVID-19 experimental antibody treatment. Entrepreneur Bill Gates was on NBC's Meet the Press and talked about it.
Yeah, the word cure is inappropriate because it won't work for everyone. But yes, of all the therapeutics, this is the most promising.
The Gates Foundation has committed over $350 million to help support the global response to COVID-19. Shoppers looking for good deals don't have to wait for Black Friday this year. Fox's Tanya J. Powers.
Walmart's Big Save event launches this evening, getting a jump on Amazon's Amazon Prime Days. The Walmart shopping event starts tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern and runs through October 15th with discounted prices on electronics, fashion, home items, and more. Walmart is also doing 2-day shipping on orders over $35, as well as free next-day delivery or in-store pickup on some items. The event overlaps Amazon's Prime Day and
Negotiation isn't just something union leaders and sports agents do. Your entire day is a series of negotiations. If you have young children, you know that. In fact, your kids can teach you a lot about negotiating with grown-ups. According to the world's greatest negotiator, Herb Cohen, author of You Can Negotiate Anything. Herb says that kids understand the process of decision-making within an organization. When one parent says no, they'll ask the other. And Cohen says children persist and persevere. And like smart negotiators of all ages, kids know that no is an opening bargaining position. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important, especially if you're a job seeker. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The Dick Cheney Vice Presidential Library opens in a pitch-dark, sulfurous underground cave, and a seedless watermelon is coming to grips with the fact it'll never be able to have kids. This is the Onion Week in Review. Following a litany of tragedies occurring over the past year, a report this week from scientists at Princeton University confirmed that 90% of the Earth's atmosphere is now made up of thoughts and prayers. Researchers confirmed that with the rise of tragic events occurring all across the world each and every day, the Earth's atmosphere is 7% nitrogen, 3% oxygen, and 90% emotional pleas begging for everything to be okay. In other news, a new study finds nothing that will actually convince you to change your lifestyle, so just forget it. UMass Dartmouth is beginning to regret offering a course in applied domestic terrorism, and a sparrow thinks it might have caught the bird flu after puking seeds all morning. Stay tuned after the video for a brief tear in the fabric of space-time, offering a glimpse at next week's Onion Review. And keep checking theonion.com for more.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
That's right, it is Free Talk Live, and you are free to call in and talk live here on the airwaves, because that's what we do 7 nights a week. From 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, we are here taking your calls on Free Talk Live. It's Mark with you.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. And I'll admit it, I am concerned. I don't know, obsessed is the right term. I don't think about it all the time. But I'm concerned with the possible violence that may occur after this election. And not concerned in the sense that I think it's going to come to where I live, because I don't think things would go well for people who wanted to, do violence out where I live. But I live in the country where things tend to be a little safer. And
not a target-rich environment for anyone.
They weren't even able to pull off their riot in Manchester. That was shut down pretty quickly. It was shut down before it started, but...
So yeah,
I didn't even know it happened in Manchester. Can you tell me about that?
Manchester,
New Hampshire?
Yes, a couple months back. It never became a riot. There were some Antifa-looking people who had their march at night, and some of the Hawaiian shirt guys came out and stood in front
Boogaloo
of some of the,
boys.
came out and stood in front of some of the small businesses with rifles, and they thought better of it and just marched them back to wherever they came from. They did not look like locals to me.
And I gotta say, that is kind of a bizarre change. I mean, since when do they have protests at night? I mean, I've been in a lot of protests. Like, I remember protesting the war when...
Yeah, if you want to be seen, you come out during the day.
Yeah, I remember protesting the war when Bush Part 2 started it. And yeah, it's so you can get seen during the day. This having a protest at night thing is pretty bizarre.
Let's go to Pat calling in from Michigan. That's Matt calling in from Michigan.
Gentlemen.
Yes, go ahead. What's on your mind, Pat?
How you doing, guys? Yeah, I called in a long time ago when we first got our third female governor here, Gretchen the Great, that we're now dealing with. I think she's dealing with the politically correct news venue that they give us. She may or may not be the great-great-great-granddaughter of Genghis Khan, in my opinion.
There's a lot of Genghis Khan has lots and lots of relatives, so it's quite possible.
Yeah, but anyway, my point is all the states that are purple are truly black and blue.
What's that mean?
They're being run by Democratic overlords. I mean, this shutdown thing has gone nuts.
Yeah.
And I want to give a shout out to the great American rednecks that stormed the Capitol here in Michigan in I think it was the third day after the shutdown.
Yeah, you remember when you remember when the leftists hated protesters earlier in this COVID thing? I mean, just weeks before the protests began over the guy that was killed in Minneapolis, George Floyd. There were protests going on, and the Democrats hated those protests.
This is a very sapient virus.
It's a very woke virus. It only attacks people when they're protesting for right causes or libertarian causes, never for people protesting for authoritarian or left causes.
Indeed. So
my question is, how far would this governor had reached if they had not shown up and put the fear of God in her in the first and right off the get on this thing?
It doesn't seem to have slowed her down. She seems to.
And that's fearful in its own right.
Yeah. When does the election occur there in Michigan for the new governor?
Well, we already had one, but the local sheriff wasn't on it, and there's been. I'd like to see a what would they call it? A transfer of power. Because this thing has been what do you call it? Incessive for a long time up here.
Incestuous.
It's a very manipulated county.
Well, but I don't mean the county. When does the governor of the state of Michigan? When does the term end?
Oh God, you got me lying on that one. I'm thinking it's 2 years from now.
Okay, well, it's going to be a while then. Good luck, Pat.
Yep. Well, God save the queen, right?
855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. Thank you for the call, Pat.
Yeah, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I mean, was she scared by the first act against her when she started this?
She could have been emboldened.
Is this the toned down version, or was that counter-effective?
Right. I mean, when you're thinking about leaders, historically, people who have gained power, chief executive of the state of Michigan, that you don't generally think of somebody who cows to the will of a handful of miscreants.
Well, they're usually well protected, though, is why leaders... I mean, we are used to living in a superpower. Think of countries that are not superpowers and how they react to people coming into the government buildings and storming the place.
They would take that very badly, generally.
Yeah, so if they're unable to just gun them down, which she kind of was unable to for maybe different reasons, they do react to those pressures. So if she is not anymore, or any of the governors, are not anymore completely protected by the facade of we work for you, then she might have to abide by some of what the people want, at least for a little while.
I want to go on with this article from USA Today that talks about a possible impending, or at least Americans believing a civil war is on the way. I think it's worth mentioning here the YouGov poll that says basically 50% of Americans, somewhere near 50% of Americans, believe that it is unlikely to be a fair and honest election, that generally the public will not agree as to the legitimacy of the election, and that you can expect to see an increase in violence as a result of the election. So that's what 50% of Americans, according to this poll, believe. And then they've got a couple of people here they're sort of interviewing as your average righty, your average lefty. Trump is already casting doubt. Here's the lefty. Trump is already casting doubt on the legitimacy of the vote by mail, which he says vote by mail, not mail-in ballot, which tells me that he may try to dispute the result legally or by decree, or who knows what that means, Edelman said, an assistant to the learning specialist at a local school who backed Senator Bernie Sanders in the primary. He's a liar. He will promote baseless conspiracy theories if he feels it will benefit him politically. Both Fry and Edelman, these are the two righty-lefty folks, are members of Braver Angels, an organization that promotes civility and healing between reds and blues and regularly holds workshops where participants can air opposing views. The group, formerly known as Better Angels, began in 2017 when half the country was having trouble getting over Trump's victory.
What has to be wrong with you for you to go to something like that?
I don't know. You care deeply about the political process more than you do about your candidate winning? I don't know.
I don't follow. What does something have to be wrong with you to go to this?
So it's a workshop where you get to, in theory, I'm not unconvinced it's going to turn into a shouting match, but you get to sit down and cry it out with the opposing team. Like, this doesn't seem like good use of anybody's time.
Well, there are some people who are like, how could you possibly hold the opposite opinion, and really do want to know that. And they do exist.
Yeah, I think that it's...
So it's just the internet, but in real life?
Well, one of the really unpleasant parts about the internet is that when you disagree with someone and you attempt to have a civil conversation and you attempt to make salient points, they don't address them. Or when they do find an area of weakness that you have, they'll exploit that and address no other point. And if they disagree with you and they can't make a good argument, they'll dox you and call your employer and say all kinds of wrong things about you and try to ruin your marriage and do a whole variety of things. Yeah, these people on the internet are flaming a-holes, and Facebook is hell.
So show up to where they can see that you are you for real.
Well, actually,
you live within a circle.
Well, no, I mean that's actually a huge thing. Like, there are all sorts of things that a person will do because they cannot see the look on someone's face when it happens.
Absolutely.
And both on the side of personal compassion and on the side of personal safety, they will do all sorts of terrible things because they don't actually have that visceral response to your action.
Well, that's why empathy is stupid.
Well,
Ender would disagree with you.
I don't know how to address that one, but I think that it results in more civil conversations if you're right in front of somebody. 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. Call in and have a civil conversation here on Free Talk Live.
News from news.bitcoin.com. Economist claims that value of U.S. dollar will descend by 35% in the next year, and the dollar is the most overrated major currency in the world today. U.S. Federal Reserve is actively working on turning the U.S. dollar into a digital currency. Bitcoin set a new record for time above $10,000 in value. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com.
Divi's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divi's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to diviproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from diviproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. diviproject.org. DIVI project.org.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
Free Talk Live.
For me, it's fighting negativity, and the negativity is my thoughts in my head that are negative. And I had to learn to recognize when my thoughts were being negative, because most of my life, most of my thoughts were negative. Mm-hmm. So I had to become aware of when they were happening. And when I become aware of these negative thoughts pervading my thinking, I immediately fight them with positive thoughts. And most of the positive thoughts that I feed myself are positive affirmations about who I am, where I'm going, where I've come from.
Whenever I find myself thinking negatively, I don't consider it fighting the negative thoughts. I just consider it changing my train of thought. I just kind of change tracks to a positive thought and just focus on that.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
Free Talk Live. Call in, talk about whatever is on your mind. It is Mark with you.
Beagless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
The number 855-450-3733. Are you afraid of an American civil war or some kind of civil unrest post-election, pre-election? 855-450-3733. That is 855-450, free as in freedom. Reading an article here from USA Today, which is discussing just this very issue, and I think it's worth talking about. I'll tell you about that here real quick before I talk about Intercoin. Intercoin is built to help democratize power to the people in their local communities. Cryptography enables people to hold secure and private elections about any matter of community governance and could even be used to securely tally and report results for national elections. This would solve a lot of problems if we just use cryptocurrency to handle cryptography to handle elections and, attach it to biometric data or whatever. I think people would be a lot more convinced that their votes got counted.
And the nice thing about that is that everyone who knows how it works actually trusts that it's secure.
Well, they ought to.
Unlike the mail.
So Intercoin has also pioneered provably random polling that is unaffected by poor voter turnout or spoiler effects. It can be used to continuously adjust levers of monetary policy, such as how much a UBI to issue the next day. Intercoin is attempting to regain some of our freedoms that are threatened on the internet and in meat space. Meat space is the real world, where people walk around made of meat. We think that it's important here on Free Talk Live, and so important that we accepted $40,000 worth of Intercoin tokens from Intercoin Inc. for advertising. If you think freedom's important too, check out Intercoin at intercoin.org, and you can invest in this project and potentially make big gains. And I become more convinced that that's the case all the time. Or you can just be involved and perhaps shape its future. Many have. Intercoin.org is where you get started. That's INTER, intercoin.org. So going on with this article here from USA Today, Braver Angels, which used to be Better Angels, which commissioned the YouGov poll, which we just referred to, has issued a letter from America, a national campaign asking citizens, civic groups, and religious organizations to pledge that they will disavow violence from either side and respect those who voted differently. So, I mean, disavow violence? How many, wasn't it only like 3% of people in the American Revolution fought? So if you got 97% of Americans to disavow violence, would it make a difference? Anyway, if in the near future we face a constitutional crisis in which our institutions cannot produce consensus on who is legitimately elected president, we resolve to work together across the chasm for solutions grounded in the Constitution and guided by our democratic and nonviolent traditions and our sense of shared destiny, the letter says.
The nonviolent traditions of the United States federal government.
Well, the transitions of power have largely been nonviolent.
That we know of.
I suppose. I mean, could there... It doesn't seem to be very...
No. I mean, like, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of assassinations.
We do not have a little civil war every 4 years.
Right, yeah. So we don't transition power with wars internally. We do that, we export that.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's certainly been wars surrounding power, the Civil War probably being chief among them. One wonders how dissension and civil unrest compare between now and the Civil War. There were only, I remember John Brown, and I can't remember what the conflict that he had, the armed conflict he had in, I think it was Missouri, over slavery. But, I mean, there's literally police stations being set on fire in the United States, and I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't think either side is ready to go full bore because their guy might win, whomever that might be, Biden or Trump. So anyway, the election is less than a month away, and the country has been roiled for months over a series of crises exposing deep partisan rifts. A pandemic that has killed more than 210,000 Americans. I think the median age of that is... down to 78 now, so half of those people were above that median age. An economy that has lost millions of jobs as a result. Street protests over police brutality.
Well, hold on. As a result of our response to the virus.
The government's response to the virus. Yeah. I didn't have anything to do with it, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to do about that. As a guy who runs a business, I'm just going to continue to run the business. I don't know what else to do. I hope it goes better for other people. Fight over the Supreme Court seat that could be asked to decide the election and COVID-19 diagnosis of the president and his top aides and some senators. Yeah, the Supreme Court thing is a big deal, and I think the COVID-19 thing with Trump made him look better, not worse.
Probably. I mean, people love a leader that can get you through a crisis, and they are more likely to stand behind a leader during a great crisis.
Right. There's a crisis, plus the fact that Trump his strength is being a strong man. And he got COVID and whipped it in
like 2 days.
Hours. Now, I mean, COVID affects people differently. I don't propose that this means that Trump is a strong man.
And they found out because of his daily tests, not because he actually had symptoms. So he had it the way everybody else has it, which is it's completely asymptomatic.
And I saw a headline today which shows some level of desperation. I think, I share the bias that the mainstream media hates Trump. I share that bias because that's the evidence I've seen. They're claiming that Trump is throwing up blood now.
I'd throw a minor exception on the Republican mainstream media, but yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly Fox's mainstream and has called itself an outsider or whatever. But if you look at the three cable channels, you think of Fox as Republican, you think of MSNBC as Democrat, and you think of CNN as middle of the road. Well, they're not. CNN is not middle of the road.
I always mix those two up, MSNBC and CNN.
Yeah, well, that's for good reason.
I can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to dive into, you said you don't think that the supporters on either side are ready to go full bore if the other wins. Why?
Until the other wins.
Oh, until the other wins.
The reason,
okay, yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that, I'm putting myself in the place of a revolutionary. I am not one, and would not pick up a gun and fight over this stuff. I'm certainly not going to pick up a stick and a shield and fight over it because that sounds like a dumb way to fight. But, if I were to put myself in these people's shoes, I would not want to make my move until the final injustice had been done, and that final injustice is that my person didn't win when I believe that they should have. And you can believe that both sides are going to believe that. So, it's kind of dangerous. Let's go to the phones here. We've got.
Not so sure we should.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Pardon me. Yeah, the number 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. We will go to the phones here very shortly. And if you call, we'll go to you. The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE, as in Free Talk Live.
So when we brought him home, we didn't realize that Bear, the rescue dog, was actually sick. He had very flaky skin. He was dropping a lot of fur, and Levette wanted to do steroid injections, special dog food. Nothing seemed to work, so I was at a dead end.
DINOVITE.com.
I've been hearing Dinovite on the radio for years. It never actually crossed my mind to try it until it finally sunk in. Oh, you're talking about hair and skin, and all right. I'll try it. Well, it took probably 6 weeks, but after we started using Dinovite, no more flaky skin, he doesn't scratch and itch, and he started to put weight on.
Dinovite is nutrition.
I wish that we would have started the Dinovite right away. It would have been so much easier.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
Every rescue dog in America deserves Dinovite for 90 days.
DINOVITE.com.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually.
Whoa. Hey,
Hey, who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today. This is.
You ain't gonna make it.
Wait
Now.
Wait a minute. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me?
Because you're scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this?
Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. Call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you. Oh, do that again. I'm sorry.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. Yeah, let's jump right into the phones here. Padrag in New Mexico. Padrag, you're on Free Talk Live.
Pretty close.
Okay.
I just wanted to say you guys are talking about what's going to happen after a president gets elected, whether it's Trump or Biden, and violence is going to hit the streets. My suggestion and the way I live is I live in a 70-unit mobile home complex.
Okay.
And I know everybody in here, all my neighbors. We always don't get along. We always don't agree. But I guarantee you that anybody that comes in here, they know, and they can call me at any time. We are the first line of defense, and we take of our own community. And I would recommend that to L.A. with the boroughs, New York. Everybody knows who drives through their streets in their communities. And all they have to do is hold the line. You don't have to call law enforcement. If enough people go out there and confront somebody, it's handled.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like having your neighbors watch your back.
Excuse me?
There's nothing quite like having your neighbors watch your back.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. Connection with your neighbors is probably one of the best things you can do for, sort of protection, community involvement, these sorts of things. And it's extraordinarily valuable. I would agree with you 100%.
Thank you very much. You have a good evening.
Same to you.
Good hearing you.
Yep. Yeah, thanks for the call. It's the fact is that we move so often, and people don't really talk to their neighbors. And, I've found in some cases when I've talked to my neighbors, they've been really awful. So I don't want to talk to them anymore. Not that I disagree with this guy. I think he's absolutely right. The better relationships you can have with your neighbors, the better. But it's...
And if you find yourself in a position where you absolutely disagree and hate everyone around you, if there's one or two guys, okay, fine, then just have a community with everybody else. But if it's everybody or a strong majority, then go to where, or I was going to say that's also possible, but go to where there are people like you, and then you won't have that problem anymore.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, there's one thing I'm thinking of here is the time I spent in Saipan, the Marianas, U.S. Marianas here in the last earlier this year. They just don't seem to have any problems like this. All these things that go on in the United States, it is the United States, but the things that go on stateside just don't affect them the same way. They've got violent crime happens now and then. People have disputes with their loved ones, and sometimes that bubbles over, and these kind of things. But I just didn't have those kind of problems. Didn't have to think about it quite as much either. And if it gets more wrought as time goes by, because the H election is worse, I can only imagine what 2024 is going to look like.
Well, I mean, one of the things to keep in mind with this is that with the whole shutdown, lockdown thing, I mean, food scarcity is really a concern for people. Like, it is a thing actually on people's mind. So, I mean, if you don't know whether your neighbors are going to have your back or raid you first, that is a real concern to have in a time like this.
Yeah. Well, let's go on with the article here. from USA Today talking about these YouGov polls. Alex Theodorosis is an associate professor of political science, lefty, at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, lefty, and has studied at the country's growing partisan divide. The reasonable chance that the election comes down to a few states and that legal challenges could mean a protracted court battle would give voters on both sides more ammunition to doubt the integrity of the election and act out, he said. A close contested election in our hyper-polarized political climate could very well produce isolated incidents of partisan violence. One thing that I was thinking about this election that sort of differs from the 2001, and that was certainly contested, is that there's a president in office right now. Unseating a incumbent has always been difficult. Now, granted, Trump has got to be the most divisive person to hold the office, at least in my lifetime. But he has control of some stuff in this circumstance. He's sitting in the Oval Office as they're deciding who gets to sit in the Oval Office. That didn't happen the last time. Bill Clinton was definitely leaving, and Al Gore and George Bush were vying for it. And it came down to a really, close decision. Remember, Al Gore lost his home state. That's really important. And then it came to Florida as to whether or not the votes would be counted. But with Trump, he's got some higher level of power because he's in office. And I don't know what that means when things happen.
Before you go on, I got to say, I disagree with this guy's idea that there's going to be isolated incidents. I mean, sure, there may have been isolated incidents if this was, 2000, in the age before the hashtag. But I mean, the probability of isolated incidents instead of like massive, potentially organized changes, I think our communications technology is probably well past that.
Well, there would be some level of there's some tipping point, right, where violence occurred, right? Because we saw violence occurred in Minneapolis, and then we saw violence occur around the United States in different locations, and that happened because of communication. It didn't happen spontaneously,
right?
So I don't know what this violence would look like, but the folks on the left, whom are currently the ones who appear to be involved in perpetrating the violence, they're not dumb, and they learn. They're not going to continue to do the same things over and over again and expect different results. They're going to do different things. So now you're seeing they aren't continuing to bring bats and shields to gunfights like they were in the beginning.
Right.
And it's going to go from bad to worse. The whole Chaz thing there, that was guarded by people with ARs, leftists with ARs. And a lot of times in America, we'd like to act like leftists can't carry ARs, but they can. And they can use them just like anybody else.
Well, as far I mean, you pointed out the left city tendency. And as far as the city folk are concerned, I think the most dangerous of them are the gang members that will have potentially Uzis.
My research, according to this political scientist here, and work by others, shows that most partisans are willing to metaphorically dehumanize those from the other party, and that is this dehumanization that predicts greater tolerance for partisan violence. And this is absolutely true.
What is a literal dehumanizing? Just like use CRISPR to change into another species? That was a ridiculous clarification.
Yeah, it is a ridiculous
according to Merriam-Webster, as if literally is a perfectly reasonable definition of the word literally.
Each side is apt to blame the other for inciting disorder, and that's absolutely true. If Trump wins, I fear chaotic, destructive hate will continue. Says Chrissy Coach, 49, a Braver Angels member and Trump supporter from Arlington, Virginia, who works part-time for an international development and relief nonprofit organization. Trump derangement syndrome really exists, and some people will not stop, she wrote in an email to USA Today. But that shouldn't frighten me into voting as they want me to vote. As a matter of fact, I would say if what your concern is civil unrest, and this is not an endorsement on my part, I'm just making an assumption. If what your concern is civil unrest, you should vote for Trump. That wouldn't change my vote.
I could see people voting either way because they're concerned about civil unrest.
How is the change of power from a president who is seated in office?
If we give the leftists what they want, they'll quit lighting things on fire.
Oh, yeah, that's always happened.
Even if that was true, I'm too petty for that.
855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. And many do love the taste of liberal tears. There's no doubt. Free Talk Live.
Hey, everybody. Confused about staying healthy in a crazy COVID culture? Me too. But listen, after all the research, all the conflicting studies, after all the squabbling, there's one thing almost everyone agrees on. It's that immune system health can literally be the difference between life and death. You probably already believe that. I certainly do. So here's the thing. I wanted to get past the craziness and find out which plant-based substances actually have studies that demonstrate some efficacy in immune support. Now, you'll have to sign a waiver, but you can check out what I've discovered at StrongerDefense.com. No cures or treatments there. Instead, little-known but shocking immune system research and a breakthrough immune support product based on that research called Immune 10X. And the best part? You can go to the Stronger Defense website right now and claim your own supply of Immune 10X without paying anything today. Crazy, right? Learn more about this unusual limited-time offer at StrongerDefense.com. That's StrongerDefense.com.
There's nothing worse than thinking that your Medicare benefits are going to cover routine medical expenses like vision, dental, and prescription benefits, only to find that when an emergency arises, your Medicare plan is full of gaps that don't even begin to cover your medical emergency. How would it feel to have to go into debt because your Medicare program didn't cover everything 100%? Studies show that 95% of Medicare recipients pay more than $5,000 per year on out-of-pocket medical expenses. At SnapMedicare.com, we understand how important it is for you to be prepared for any type of medical emergency. All it takes is a quick phone call to 800-286-5516 to find out exactly where you stand with your Medicare coverage and to save thousands on future costs. Call 800-286-5516 to make sure your Medicare plan includes provisions to cover any gap in coverage. Whether you have questions about Part A or Part B Medicare coverage, remember, call 800-286-5516. SnapMedicare.com. Call 800-286-5516.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. You can call in and talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
We've been talking about this article from USA Today that's potentially foreshadowing some kind of civil unrest post-election and making some excellent points. I'm going to go to the phones here very quickly, but before we do, I want to tell you about Divi. You've heard us talk about Divi here on Free Talk Live, and maybe you've wanted to set up one of their easy-to-deploy masternodes or stake Divi so that you can begin earning Divi right now. Now, Ian says setting up a masternode was super easy and staking was even easier. I have not set up a masternode, but my wife did and Ian did, and both of them said, relatively easy. We're not investment advisors here on Free Talk Live, but we think that you will be impressed with your earning potential with Divi as compared to traditional investment vehicles. So go to diviproject.org and get started, and you can buy Divi at several exchanges or go or directly from the Divi team. They make it very easy. Need help? There's a link to their Telegram channel right there on the front page at diviproject.org. That's D-I-V-I, Divi as in division, diviproject.org. Let's go to Robert in Vermont. Robert, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
All's well. How about you?
Well, it's another day in paradise.
Indeed. What's on your mind?
Hey, look, I was thinking today earlier that I think that there's a way to be able to stop Trump from winning the election this year.
Okay.
And
do I want to do that? Because do you mean get Joe Biden elected? Is that
somebody else?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, are there other options that you're going to present that this method is going to accomplish besides Trump and Joe Biden?
Right. So I think if we improvise, okay, and find out, what Trump's idiosyncrasies are, meaning his likenesses and his dislikenesses, and attack it. One of the things that he hates most of all is to lose.
No, he does, yes.
He hates to lose.
He hates to be a loser.
That's what's going to be infiltrated.
That's going to be what?
That's what's going to be infiltrated. In other words, pursued to get in there and, attack. He doesn't like to lose at anything.
Sure. He's not going to like it if he loses the election. And if he does lose the election, he's going to make a big ruckus about it and say that, it had to do with mail-in ballots. And it could very well.
It probably did.
Well, I mean, we don't know what the results are going to be, but it could very well be that.
Okay, well, let's look at the number of mail-in votes for each candidate versus actual votes for each candidate.
All we have to do is look and see which party is pushing mail-in voting and which party hates it.
Yeah, and has been for a very long time, and this is just a good excuse.
Right. So there you go. I don't know how that's going to help get Joe Jorgensen elected, though, Robert.
Well, all we can do is just hope, or you can write somebody in like Dale W. Perry. Anybody but Trump.
Okay, well, first of all, you can't write somebody in every state.
Yeah, well, a lot of states don't have write-ins. Thank you for the call, Robert. Yeah, basically, if you're not going to vote for who's on the ballot in 40-plus states, you might as well not fill in that particular thing. I mean,
for U.S. president, because in some local elections, we have had in New Hampshire local write-in candidates win.
It's happened in elections, and there's some notable historical write-in wins, but they are very few and very far between. So, my statement, I'll stand by my statement. If you're not voting for somebody who's on the ballot for president in 40-plus states, you might as well not vote for anybody. And that's my criteria, is I pick from the people who are on a ballot in 40-plus states.
So I have a question for you, Mark, since, as you've pointed out, this is a major concern of yours, and you've devoted a fair amount of thought to it. Since it was briefly brought up the possibility of having someone other than either Biden or Trump have the greatest amount of power over us, if there is a civil war, what do you think is the chances of breaking up the Union?
Well, I've been advocating for a less powerful union for some time. You don't need to get rid of the things that we like flags and eagles, which most people seem to be pretty fond of, by and large. But the federal government has aggregated to itself a great deal of power through the Commerce Clause and the General Welfare Clause. And these things are significant problems. Also, by the way, the Federal Reserve creation of money is controlled by the federal government. The federal government has some level of control over that, which means that they can control states by deciding who gets money. If daddy hands out the money in the household, then the kids are going to try to please daddy. If the kids have their own jobs and earn their own money, then they're not going to work as hard to do that. So that's my theory on that.
That's kind of a non-answer to my question, though. I mean, if there is a civil war, what do you figure are the chances that there might not be, that there would be possible secessions or at least a decrease?
I don't think there'd be secessions. I think there would be a quelling of the violence, and that would be that. I mean, if this is the most powerful government that the world has ever seen, and the idea that it's going to be taken down by some people who want to set buildings on fire and, that just don't have much of a plan, not likely.
Yeah, it's so powerful that we don't even know who the targets would be. There's some banker somewhere who we have never heard his name or seen his picture, and he's the one in charge, and probably a handful of them, not one guy.
I'm not suggesting that the United States government would be taken down, just that maybe when the dust settles, that New York and Texas are not in the same country anymore.
Well, if it's not taken down, then there's no way to do that because it's not just going to give away power.
Let's go to Mary calling in from Pennsylvania, listening to iHeartRadio. Mary, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, your first name again, sir?
My first name is Mark.
Oh, Mark. Hi, I'm Mary. You were saying about the Civil War, about the left and the right, and after the election, whoever wins. I don't know if you've been watching, and your show is very interesting. It's the first time I call, and thank you for letting me talk. But I don't know if you've been watching. The most of the right, which is very conservative, we're parading around with the Eucharist, and we want peace. That's what we want. The Catholic Church is parading around with the Eucharist, and we want peace. But there's a lot of people on the conservative side, or at least the Trump side, that want peace. They don't want this violence. And I think if Trump gets elected, he'll use the power that is appropriated to him, it's going to get out of hand. I think he'll be able to handle it. Biden, on the other hand, I don't think. I just think they're rioting for riot's sake, just to stir up trouble, kind of split, like conquer and divide, and they kind of target a victim group, and then you kind of target and divide. I think if Biden wins, I'd be scared that it would continue to go on, and there really wouldn't be any control. That's what would scare me.
So if Trump wins, you think that Trump would be able to quell the violence that, at this point, 50% of Americans believe is going to occur. If Biden wins, you do not believe that Americans that the violence would be quelled because there would be too great of a groundswell of it?
Yes, it would. I mean, they're already arguing because Biden just repealed saying he's not going to defund the whole police department, and people are already rioting over that. And I don't think, and I think it's a lot of people coming in from the outside. There's George Soros and millionaires that are trying to just, they're trying to involve themselves. But I think it's more like making our government more chaotic and actually really wanting something, to get done. And I think Trump sees through that, and and he can see through that, and he'll stop it. He'll be able to control it, because I think he is the powerful government, and I know we have the powerful government in history of our own kind, and based on Judeo-religious committee. And I think we forget one thing, is that Joe Biden is, and I'm not getting religious here, but Joe Biden is not Catholic. I'm Roman Catholic, and Joe Biden is Catholic.
Is Trump Catholic?
He's a bad Catholic. Yeah, I'm Roman Catholic, yes.
Is Trump Catholic?
No, Trump isn't Catholic. He's Christian, but he believes in pro-life, and that is what Catholics believe in. Biden is Catholic.
There's a lot of Democrat Catholics, though.
There's a hard limit on the number of extramarital partners and prostitutes you can sleep with before you can still say that you're pro-life, because your actions are kind of going in the opposite of that.
What does that mean? I don't understand, Melanie. What are you saying?
There's only so many unintended pregnancies that you can contribute to before you can claim that you're still pro-life.
So the Catholic Church does what? Oh, I see.
No,
Trump, I see. Trump is a bit of a philanderer. Mary, thank you for the call. Really appreciate it. The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. There's nothing we can do about that clock. So, can't change it. 855-450-3733.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now's your chance to be part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for everyone to use it in everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that's as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more, and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
Do you have a WordPress website running WooCommerce and want to accept cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin SV? Now you can easily enable crypto payments from your customers by adding the AnyPay plugin to your WordPress site. Just visit AnyPayInc.com and set up your account by entering your cryptocurrency wallet addresses in the admin. Then enable the AnyPay plugin in your WooCommerce. That's it. Now your website takes crypto like Bitcoin thanks to AnyPayInc.com. AnyPayInc.com. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
The battle gets underway. I'm Joe Giro, Fox News. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer telling reporters that if Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed, she should step aside from any cases involving the election and the upcoming challenge to the Affordable Care Act.
Justice Barrett's previous record and public statements indicate she would vote to strike down the ACA and protections for millions of Americans and overturn Roe, protections for women.
Barrett's confirmation hearings begin tomorrow. Republicans strongly disagree. Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse.
She's very clear about her jurisprudence. She's an originalist and she's a textualist, which means when she puts on her black robe in the morning, she knows what it is to be a judge, and that is to cloak your personal preferences. Our judges don't wear red or blue jerseys.
Sasse on Fox News Sunday. Dr. Anthony Fauci is upset with a new campaign ad for President Trump using an excerpt of him from an interview on Fox News in March. Fauci first told CNN that his comments about the work of the coronavirus task force were taken out of context.
I can't imagine that anybody could be doing more. We'll get through this together. We'll live carefully.
Fauci issued a statement saying he's never publicly endorsed any political candidate in his nearly 5 decades of public service, and the comments were used without his permission. The Trump campaign responding, saying the words spoken are accurate and directly from Dr. Fauci's mouth. President Trump says he's ready to return to the campaign trail and feels great. Mr. Trump has 3 states on his campaign schedule this week, beginning with a rally in Florida tomorrow. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has events in Cincinnati and Toledo. America is listening to Fox News.
For over 20 years, millions of customers have trusted Blinds.com to update their homes. Because Blinds.com makes it easy to get custom blinds that'll give your windows a high-end look without the high-end price. Whether you like to DIY, need design help, or prefer measure and install services, they do it all with easy online ordering and free shipping right to your door. If you're unsure, know that Blinds.com has over 30,000 5-star customer reviews, and they guarantee the perfect fit for your windows, whether you do it yourself or have them measure and install everything for you.
Right now, shop Blinds.com's annual Friends and Family sale right from home with easy online ordering and free shipping right to your door. You'll save up to 40% on everything through October 13th. Blinds, shades, interior shutters, and more. Plus, pay over 24 months at 0% APR on qualifying purchases with PayPal Credit Easy Payments. Ends January 31st, 2021. As of September 1st, 2020, new PayPal credit accounts have a variable purchase APR of 23.99% that will vary with the market based on the prime rate. Minimum interest charge is $2, subject to credit approval. Visit Blinds.com/PayPal. Other rules and restrictions may apply.
Evacuation orders are being lifted and people began returning to Louisiana today after Hurricane Delta devastated the region Friday night, just 6 weeks after Hurricane Laura. Governor John Bell Edwards with an update.
Unfortunately, today we're reporting the first storm-related fatality. That's an 86-year-old man in St. Martin Parish, passed away from a fire that sparked shortly after refueling a generator that was located in a shed, and we don't believe the generator was allowed to cool down before he refueled it.
Edwards says there are still about 350,000 customers without power, but nearly that many had their power restored. South Korea's defense ministry is concerned after North Korea unveiled what's suspected to be a new long-range ballistic missile during a military parade yesterday. Former U.S. National Security Advisor Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster spoke about it this morning on Fox and Friends.
LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm.
According to a report released today, the vast majority of American children lack the presence of a strong, sculpted male supermodel, with less than 4% of youngsters being taught the important values of respecting runway etiquette, maintaining a glistening six-pack, and walking a catwalk with verve and flair.
The number of strong-jawed male supermodels in children's lives has declined to record lows, leaving the majority of our youth unaware of how to get comfortable in front of the camera during an underwear shoot, or even perform something as simple as a sexy but stylish full turn.
Stanton went on to say that impoverished communities were especially affected by the lack of Adonis-like male figures, and added that children in lower-class homes were over 80% less likely to grow into the type of high-cheekboned, studly he-men that succeed in haute couture society.
Quite frankly, these children are just not getting the necessary influence of a dynamic male supermodel who can both make puppy dog eyes at the camera and also radiate that sort of raw, unabashed machismo that forces fashionistas to look up and take notice.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. Kicking off the third hour, you can call in and talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
Got a bunch of calls holding over here. The number's 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. What we've been talking about all evening is this article from USA Today where they go over this YouGov poll that they did very recently, which basically says, I'm going to repeat it here, about 50% of people believe that the election is unlikely to be fair and honest, that people will generally not agree on the legitimacy of the elected president, and that an increase in violence is likely to result is the likely result of the election. So with this information, it could be bad, and they're sort of talking about what could happen. Now, I don't know, Civil War, are we talking about neighbors fighting neighbors and, guns being toted and people wearing, certain colors? I doubt that. But increased civil unrest? Certainly. What does that civil unrest look like? Remember, civil unrest brought down the Soviet Union.
Well, I also find it interesting that it's about half. So this poll actually gives us no further clarity than we had before this poll as to whether or not it's actually going to happen.
Well, and what I would say is that so half of the people believe it's going to happen, half of the people don't believe it's going to happen. These are registered voters, not just your average person. But it only took 3% of people to fight the American Revolution.
Well, yeah, but if it was 25% or 75%, that would actually give us some clarity on like, okay, this is definitely going to happen most likely, or this is definitely less likely to happen.
It's definite that a lot of people are concerned with it. Let's go to the phones. We've got Robert calling in from South Carolina. Robert, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hello. I just wanted to say that with regard to what you were talking about earlier, I just want to say in times of violence and unrest, people will not do any social experimentation. They'll basically pick what they know and pick what they're comfortable with. And I presume that would be Trump, because socialism is something that they're not really comfortable with, and they know that socialism could easily lead to communism, and they have I don't believe they would be comfortable with that, so I think that they would go with Trump because of the disturbances that we've been having. And
that's a possibility, but it could just as easily go the other direction if they believe that Biden is Obama term 3.
So you think that Biden is seen as the socialist option?
Well, Biden is actually, from what I read, Biden is actually slightly to the left of Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders is pretty far to the left. So if they do their homework, they're
saying that about Kamala Harris, but I haven't heard them say that about Biden. Biden's kind of trying to distance himself from the terminology socialist.
You're right, but I don't know how if you take a look at his record, I don't think you'd see that.
Well, I know that he has a long record, and people don't seem to care about it at all.
He strikes me as a centrist authoritarian, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I would call him too, a centrist authoritarian. But he's always been right there with the Democrats trying to, pass, what did he call, super predators, pass the crime bill.
The 94 crime bill.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, he was happy to go on the right in 1994 when that was the most politically feasible thing to do.
Right. Biden's been right of Trump and left of Sanders, depending on whatever the direction the wind blows. Thanks for the call, Robert. Appreciate it. The number 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE.
He might be right about as far as people will go with what they know, and this is what's already the president. And in almost all cases, the president serves 2 terms, so that is what people know.
Yes. But like I said, they could view Biden as Obama term 3. Now, the question I would have...
Because Trump is definitely not what they know.
Where is Obama? People are voting right now. Ballots are turned in. In my household, we have voted. And, America would want to know. At this point, there's no October surprise. You've got to do a September. You've got to do an August surprise now because voting goes on for a period of time. And if Obama is going to be out there stumping for Biden, where is he?
Yeah, that's kind of... It's almost the most damning thing. It's the most damning thing about Biden. Because for the guy who you were VP for, and you don't select your own VP as president, really, for him not to be actively supporting you is kind of odd.
Michelle Obama did some campaigning for Biden, so,
well, I
take that for what it's worth.
I think a big part of the point of choosing the Biden-Harris ticket is so that the left can get their supporters under their thumb. Because there are two things that leftists really don't like: cops and rich, straight, old white men. And you've got both of them. So, I mean, if you had the first black president out there campaigning for him, I mean, that would really soften the authoritarian structure that they're putting in place right now.
And Obama is widely considered to be one of the best Democratic presidents by Democrats in our lifetime, in recent past. I would argue that, in fact, he got very little done, and the things that he did get done include shelling hospitals in foreign countries. But whatever, that's, people don't hold the same opinion as I do. Whatever the case may be.
So
Let's go to
that would lessen the loyalty test.
Let's go to Timothy calling in from Missouri. Timothy, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yes, I'd like to talk about the support of third-party candidates. You said, if I understand you correctly, that unless your candidate was on at least 40 of the state's ballots, that wasn't worth voting for?
Yes, that's my opinion.
Well, in the first place, I believe a person should vote for who they believe will do the best job, not who they think is going to win.
Sure, but I could vote for my mom.
I think I would do the best job.
Right.
Now, I'm talking about serious candidates.
Well, that's the thing is they're not serious if they're not on the ballot in 40 states.
Well, let me put it this way.
Okay.
Lincoln, when he won the election in 1860, only won 19% of the vote. He did not get a single vote in any of the southern states. In fact, I don't know if he was even on their ballot. That was only the second time a Republican candidate had a candidate in the elections. 1860 was the first one. He was the second one. So actually, they were basically a third party equal to today, a third party candidate. And yet he won with 19% of the vote.
But he was on enough of ballot. He was on the ballot in enough of states to be able to mathematically win. And that is not true of every third party in every election.
Right. And by the way, we should use the term minor party, because third party doesn't make sense. You can't have 15 thirds. So for instance, I would call if you are going to use the term third party, I would only call the Libertarians and the Greens a third party, because
I thought you said we couldn't have more than one.
Well, you can have a tie for third, but you're having 15 tie for third doesn't make any sense.
Libertarians are bigger than Green.
Well, Libertarians and the Greens, but the Greens have had more votes for Ralph Nader, for several elections within the last few decades. So, Ralph Nader got a lot of votes, whereas there was the Socialist People's Liberty Party in Florida that was on the ballot that I happened to see on my wife's ballot. I've never heard of these people before, and they're likely only on one state's ballot.
Now, the Constitution Party, I believe, on several, or there was anyway.
Yeah, the Constitution Party's been around for a while, and I can see why somebody might want to vote for them. I don't know how many states I'm not following the Constitution Party. I am not a reporter in that sense. So if they're on 40 states, this is a general rule of thumb. What it really has to do with is having enough electoral votes. But 40 states, you'll definitely cross that line. If you want to give your vote to a Constitution candidate, by all means. But having the difference between writing down Bugs Bunny and voting for the Socialist People's Liberty Party in Florida is vanishingly narrow. It would be my contention.
I just think if you vote for the lesser of two evils, you're still voting for evil. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for the call, Timothy. Whoops. Yeah. 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE. Push the wrong button there. But he did say goodbye. Free Talk Live.
News from news.bitcoin.com. Economist claims that value of US dollar will descend by 35% in the next year, and the dollar is the most overrated major currency in the world today. US Federal Reserve is actively working on turning the US dollar into a digital currency. Bitcoin set a new record for time above $10,000 in value. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com.
Bear, the rescue dog, had very flaky skin, dropping a lot of fur, and Levette wanted to do steroid injections. I was at a dead end.
DINOVITE.com.
Probably 6 weeks after we started using Dinovite, no more flaky skin. He doesn't scratch and itch. It was awesome.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
Every rescue dog in America deserves Dinovite for 90 days.
DINOVITE.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Live video of our Keene, New Hampshire-based shows is streamed on DLive. Please follow and share at dlive.lrn.fm. That's dlive.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. Call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
The number 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. Want to thank the amplifiers, every single one of them. And you can be one too. If you go to amp.freetalklive.com, you can amp the show. So one of the reasons that you might want to do this is, in some cases we give little perks that make your experience better. You can call in lines and ways to communicate with other amplifiers and ways to communicate with the host and all those sorts of things. Also, if you believe in the ideas of freedom of speech, you definitely want to support Free Talk Live, because we're the only show out here doing a show like we do, where we let, pretty much anybody who calls in get on the air and talk about pretty much anything they want to talk about. The FCC has some rules, and we have some rules too. For instance, one of the rules is one call a night. Other rules are if you threaten people, you don't get on the air. But whatever the case may be, if you support Free Talk Live, you want to go to the AMP program at amp.freetalklive.com and do as Leah Hoffman has and support the show. She's a silver amplifier. So thank you, Leah Hoffman. All the best to you and your family. It's amp.freetalklive.com. Let's go back to the article here where we're talking about this poll that says that basically there's going to be violence after the election. Right now they're talking about dehumanizing of the other side. So I don't know what this word is. Noor Anin, 23, an architecture student who immigrated from Pakistan as a child, is worried about what will happen in the aftermath of the election. A Biden supporter who initially backed Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren in the Democratic presidential primary, Anin said Trump's victory in 2016 validated hate in the U.S., and his followers could act up even if he wins re-election. So he's concerned that there may be violence from the Trump side should Trump get reelected. Now, this is the first time that I have heard somebody saying that the side that wins is going to be violent.
First I've heard of it too.
Yeah, I haven't heard that suggestion.
There's no reason. That's silly. If you already have the power, you don't go to the street to fight for power.
He also makes the claim that Trump's victory in 2016 validated hate, and I don't know what he means by that. Many Trump people are big on immigration in ways that I am not, but I don't think that necessarily means hate. It may be ignorance. It may be, belief in a system that doesn't work.
Well, I think a lot of the people that have this perspective, they really believe that deep down in the heart of so many Americans, there's this absolute racism. And that the reason that these people aren't actively openly racist is because it's not socially acceptable. And
how could it not be socially acceptable if racism was it was in the hearts of so many? I mean, it's either socially acceptable or it's not, right?
That's not necessarily true.
That's not how societies functionally work.
All right.
I mean, it is a very common thing to present a false face socially and have different opinions privately. And the idea is that it's become out of fashion to be openly and blaringly racist, but that these people still are in their heart of hearts racist and just haven't had the opportunity to get away with being openly racist.
Of course, more opportunities exist in this country where Mr. Anin here, who is from Pakistan, has the opportunity to speak on an issue and vote on an issue, whereas I'm relatively certain that if I went to Pakistan and I attempted to run for office and get my opinions of liberal Western democracy in, that I would be roundly rejected, if not killed. And this is true around the world. Racism or ethnocentrism or whatever you want to call it is the norm around the globe. And the United States and Western cultures are the exception, where we will accept people from different places and we look forward to them coming up with bringing different ideas. I mean, I at this point, his idea doesn't really pass muster with me, the idea that the 2016 election validated hate, but I'm the guy he's talking about, right? I am a white guy who's 50 years old. He doesn't like me.
Well, to me, the most interesting part about this is okay, it wasn't enough for these people that have racism deep in their heart but don't tell you about it. It wasn't enough that Trump got the first one. Getting elected in the first place was not enough to bring that bubbling to the surface. That was insufficient acceptance of white supremacist ideas. But a re-election, that would make it really okay.
Let's go on here. The country's already pretty divided, and it's only become more and more divided in the past 4 years. she said. Okay, this name, Annan, is she. Considering the state of things this year, there's a lot of different emotions, and there are a lot of people who feel very strongly about different sides. Whatever the outcome is, I feel like there will be a rise in violence. And I would agree that there will likely be a rise in violence afterwards. I do not think it will be by the winning party necessarily, though. I would tend to think that it would be by the loser. And I would say the division has increased in this country progressively. I would start with what was his name? Al Gore and his claim that there were two Americas. And that began the whole thing. And then, Bush comes into office and the lefties are all anti-war. And then, Obama gets in office, gets the Peace Prize for, being...
And the anti-war movement evaporates.
Right, and then the anti-war movement's gone. Then you've got the birthers coming in and basically people questioning Obama's legitimacy. And the divisions have been there. Here are the divisions. The reason we have divisions is because politics is taking your opinion and shoving it down the throat of somebody who disagrees with you. That's it. And the more powerful that the central state becomes, the more divided we're all going to be. This was supposed to be an experiment in a diverse, several states, where you got to choose between different forms of governance. And it is no longer that. The homogeny is that we now have 50% of people on one side, 50% of people on the other side who are attempting to play a sort of tug of war, and the loser has to eat a dead rat. And the loser doesn't want to eat the dead rat. And the loser's going to figure out why the people making them eat the dead rat are very bad people. And they are very bad people. Forcing your candidate on the other person is bad. But what's worse is having the other person's candidate forced on you. So you're stuck in this catch-22 where you're supposed to be voting. Now, also, the fun part is here's the little twist. Your vote doesn't make a difference.
Well, but there's bound to be a bunch of people that vote just like you, no matter which way you do.
Agreed. The vote will make the vote in the singular will make a difference in so much as one party will be elected and the other won't. Now, we don't know whether this vote will be legitimate. I have no idea what will happen. I think that, inevitably both sides are going to say that the outcome is unacceptable and that there will be violence. But that's just what I think. What do you think? The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. I pray it doesn't happen, but I've prayed for no wars, and that didn't work either.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
Every year, over 1 million fires burn in America. Fortunately, firefighters are on the job, saving life and property, and you can be a part of it. 7 out of 10 firefighters and emergency responders are volunteers. There's no typical firefighter. Anyone can volunteer to serve their community. Volunteering as a first responder is really about having the heart and drive to make a difference where it's needed most. Your community needs you. Are you ready to answer the call? Learn more and find local volunteer opportunities at makemeafirefighter.org.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air, and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Free Talk Live. The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. It's Mark with you.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
Reading an article from USA Today discussing the United States being on the verge of civil war. On the verge being in quotation marks here. And I think that they've made a case, at least for some kind of increase in violence. And I don't know what that curve looks like from a few random people getting shot on either side to an all-out shooting war with conservatives and liberals fighting it out, or city folks and country folks. I'm not even sure how it would go. I'd say if you're going into some particular person's area to demonstrate, like I see a problem there generally.
Well, I think they definitely made the case for the uncertainty of that.
It's certainly uncertain. Let's go to the phones. Go to Dell calling in from California. Dell, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, hello, gentlemen. I really appreciate you taking my call. I just want to make my opinion perfectly clear. We don't have freedom anymore.
Did we at one point?
I don't know.
Okay,
I thought we
that's
did,
fair.
But what happened to me, I'll make it short and sweet. I'm a homeless individual. I was living in the high country in the wilderness in the Trinity Alps in Northern California. I was assaulted by several park rangers on horseback with firearms and told that I had to physically remove myself. I was physically evacuated from the area.
Is this because of fires, or what was the reason?
No, they said all the parks are closed. No people can be in the parks anymore.
Is that because of the fires, or is that because of something else? COVID?
Or the lockdown, yeah.
No, they were talking about the fires approaching the area.
Okay.
But so I removed myself. I had to walk out, 8 miles.
They didn't give you a ride?
I removed myself from the area.
They told you had to leave, but they didn't give you a ride?
No, I got to my vehicle. And when I got to my vehicle, I had a $500 ticket on my vehicle for being in an evacuated area. I left my vehicle there 13 days earlier.
Right.
How can I be cited? Beyond that, I just, my point is, we as people are having our rights violated.
Yeah.
And it's not right.
Well, what it sounds to me like you were doing was camping. And you weren't doing anything that normal folks don't do, and anything particularly wrong there. I would say that the citation on your vehicle is very likely just them trying to raise money or increase the urgency of what they're trying to do. You might consider fighting that, because I don't think they have much as far as grounds go for giving you a ticket of that size. But yeah, it's, you'd think public land means you can be on it because you're part of the public. It doesn't mean that, unfortunately, because, well, the government just decides when public lands are open and when they're not. And that's sad. Del, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Sounds amazing what these people can do because they're answerable to neither a person nor any standard of behavior.
Yeah. Let's go to Mike calling from Washington, listening on LRN.FM. Mike, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, you guys and girl. So I listened to a couple, I'm new to the LRN thing, so I listened to 2 streams today. Both of them were actually quite amazing because I could have been listening to Home Improvement on regular radio.
There was a Home Improvement show on LRN.FM?
Well, all radio stations on the weekends have those Home Improvement
Oh, I
shows
see what you're saying. Yes, they have these
so I really
niche shows.
enjoyed your programming instead. Anyway, one was somebody's show about, they were talking about the militia kidnapping some governor. I don't know who the show host was, but it was a pretty interesting topic. But then there was an interview with a guy on death row on another stream that was pretty fascinating to hear. Anyway, just as opposed to regular everyday radio, I was just kind of plugging the whole.
Thank you. What we run LRN.FM. We run LRN.FM to give people an option that is different than what they're getting elsewhere. LRN.FM is the most professionally run, independent internet network out there. And if you'd like to check it out, you go to it's Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM, and you can take a listen. And we got lots of ways to listen.
All right.
Go ahead, Mike.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. So, yeah, Mike apparently had a good time and wanted to plug LRN.FM, and I appreciate it. I, too, am a listener of LRN.FM. Ian basically programs the thing, and, it's a labor of love on his part, and I appreciate him doing it.
Well, it's definitely nice to get some variety as opposed to the standard programming you get from the corporate media out there.
Let's go to Dana calling in from Michigan. Dana, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Dana.
Usually you and I are on the same page, but I got a little bit of a bone to pick with you.
Excellent. I like that. Go ahead.
Okay. This should be fun.
Yes.
So earlier, probably about 40 minutes ago, you said that Trump is the most divisive president in your lifetime. Actually, let me get you an actual survey that was done.
Okay.
Because I was saying this before the survey ever came out. Can't direct you to the survey, but I will try to find it, I promise. And I'm sure you could Google, a few Google words, and maybe it'll pop up.
Well, just tell me what you experienced, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Before Obama, at the end of Bush's term, they did a survey, and how blacks viewed whites, and they didn't do any other race. How blacks viewed whites and whites viewed blacks.
Uh-huh.
Whites viewed blacks approximately 10 points higher, anywhere from about 79 to 81%. They viewed them favorably.
Okay.
And as far as blacks to whites, it was about 10 points lower. So 69, 70%.
Those are pretty good numbers generally. Yeah.
Yep. At the end of Obama's first 4 years, both numbers were cut in half.
I see.
So it is Obama. It has also been said, as soon as the president is out of office, as soon as Bush was out, their favorability points I'm not going to say they skyrocket, but they go up unbelievable.
People miss them.
People's memories are so short.
Yeah.
So that being said, they forgot how divisive that guy was. He was the one that started this, first with the Trayvon thing, saying that looks like if I had a son, it looked like him.
Mm-hmm.
Then sending 3 Congress people down to Brown's funeral, who clearly beat the heck out of the cop, knocked his eye out of his socket, and bloodied. There was blood all over the interior police car. Black witnesses, their lives were threatened. They had to be relocated by our government because they testified that Brown was never on his knees and never had his hands up. He went after the cop and he wasn't stopping. Then there was the incident in Maryland. And there were
there were certainly things going on, and maybe they went on just because of Obama's color, not because of his who he was.
But what I'm saying is, you're saying Trump is more divisive. Then add Trump. One more, the Harvard professor who was breaking into his own house and who got really, really snotty and condescending with the white cop, which kicked off the beer summit, which was the stupidest thing.
Well, somebody may very well get if somebody was questioning me getting into my house, depending on my mood in that particular day, I may be very kind to them, and I may not be very kind to them. It could be, all I'm saying. Obama won by a much larger margin than Trump did, and that would be what I would base my statement on as far as divisiveness. I don't think divisiveness is necessarily bad. It's just dividing. 855-450-3733. Free Talk Live.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body, Brain, and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
When you have a pain in the neck, a real pain in the neck, back, shoulder, or legs, you now have 2 convenient choices to get fast relief without taking another pill. Because now, Sunny Bay heating wraps and pillows are available at both Amazon and Walmart. Yes, see Sunny Bay's 4.5 to 5-star customer reviews on Amazon.com or Walmart.com. Our made in the USA microwavable heat wraps, heatable neck pillows, and extra large body wraps are designed better for perfect support where and when you need it. Even while driving, Sunny Bay wraps will not burn and stay balanced to provide soothing hot or cold therapy to help treat temporary or chronic pain. And the best part? Sunny Bay quality products start at under $20. Join thousands of happy customers and see why Sunny Bay products have a lifetime 100% positive rating on both Amazon and Etsy. It's easy. Click Amazon or Walmart and search today for Sunny Bay.
Do you want to give you and your loved ones premium nutrition right now? Hi, I'm Jamel Bookaboo from TeamGaday.com and the GCN Longevity Health Team. Get your premium nutrition formulated by world-renowned naturopathic doctor, Dr. Joel Wallach at Wholesale, or also become a distributor and earn income while supporting this broadcast. Go to TeamGaday.com via the shopping cart or contact form, and I'll get back to you with support personally. That's TeamGaday.com with longevity. TeamGaday.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
It's the final segment of Free Talk Live. We still may be able to sneak you in here. If you call 855-450-3733, it's 855-450-FREE. Mark with you.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Melanie.
Let's just jump right into the calls. Let's go to Rob calling in from Indiana. Rob, you're on Free Talk Live.
Never threaten anybody, but you're lucky you're still alive, Mark Edge.
That is James from Arizona, who has been banned from the show for threatening me and my family. And of course, lying that he hasn't threatened them. I can play audio that would say different. Let's go to David calling in from New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live. Sorry for the wait.
Yeah, so-called minister.
So-called
Edgerton.
minister.
Yeah, and you'll really be lucky you're still alive after I shoot you out of a cannon. Out of a cannon. Yeah. So,
because that's good for your health.
What?
Because that's good for your health, being shot out of a cannon.
Yeah. That's right. Get some fresh air.
Let's
see the sights.
Yeah. Oh, and first of all, before my point, the gentleman in California that is homeless that got a $500 fine, if it was me, what I would do, and I would expect like 99.9% success, is I would get out, find a telephone, call the federal court, ask them how to file motions by mail so I don't have to go to the federal courthouse, and then I would file a motion explaining my situation that I'm homeless, which means I'm indigent, and asking for explaining the circumstances, asking my $500 fine be eliminated or suspended or reduced to $25 or something like that, and you should get some sort of success unless you draw a total jerk judge. That's what I would do. So moving forward...
Well, the federal court is not going to do that for a state ticket. You're going to have to do that in state court.
It's not. Well, I don't. He said it was feds. He said it was in the national.
He did say it was a national forest.
Oh, a national forest. Okay, never mind then.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on, and Melanie can continue to listen because this is court-related stuff as well. And so in New Mexico, in the Metro Court in Albuquerque, Judge Victor Valdez. So here's what happened. You got the left wants to take your guns, right? Right. And Judge Valdez, UNM graduate, law school graduate, is a Democrat, so he's on the left. And with these cases that I'm involved in for calling into a public radio station and trying to talk like I am right now and being told that I'm not allowed to, and then having them call the cops, and then the cops writing me up for harassing them for calling them on the phone during their call-in program. So I got, 4 different charges I'm facing. One of them is before Victor Valdez in Albuquerque. And this has been going on since 2016, 4 years. And not a single judge has, to this point, has ordered any conditions of release. And Judge Victor Valdez in New Mexico decided that all of a sudden, after 4 years, David Olson needs some conditions of release. I can't have any firearms, I can't have any alcohol, I can't do, all the standard stuff. And so I contested that, and I did a sneaky thing. In the middle of a telephonic appearance, what I said I said objection, which, if you remember, before Judge Felicia Belaya Rivera got me threatened with contempt
for saying objection.
By saying objection. But I did it again anyway in front of Valdez. He didn't threaten me in the same way. And I said, Your Honor, I need to speak with my attorney. Therefore, we need to recess for a few minutes so I can speak with my attorney, and then we can come back on the record. So that's what we did. I got on the phone with my attorney in addition to, and she's in her office. I'm at home. We're doing a telephonic court appearance. And so we're emailing, texting, and then I got her on the telephone. And I told her, and she was reluctant to do it. I had to tell her twice to do it. I told her, I want you to ask this judge what is the reason that you're imposing conditions of release now when it's
been 4 years later. What did the judge say?
But there's more. There's the kicker is, and I told her to make sure to ask: is it because this case is labeled with a DV prefix, meaning domestic violence? And so I insisted that she ask him that question. We go back on the record. She asked him that question, just how I phrased it to you, and the judge admits, Victor Valdez, on the record that, yes, indeedy, it's marked with a domestic violence, with a DV marking, and so therefore, the firearms thing is appropriate along with, whatever other stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting how you have not been convicted of doing anything wrong, and you're presumed innocent, and you can't have firearms. And at this point, 4 years into this, you'd think if you were going to shoot somebody, you would have done it already. But no, he wants to take that away. David, actually, there's a person on here that wants to talk to you, so I'm going to let the board op bring the second caller in. I don't want to mess this up.
Okay.
Dave from Area 51 calling in. Looks like he dropped.
I didn't. Fascinating what you just said,
Mark.
You ever listen to what you say?
There's James lying again about who he is, and David got dropped. Let's go on with this story. I do get to finish up here. USA Today talking about us being on the United States being on the verge of a civil war. The online poll, September 23rd, has a margin of error of whatever, and it said basically that about half of Americans, 4 of 10, said that they strongly agree with the sentiment expressed that most sharply by those identifying themselves as very conservative or very liberal, that, in fact, there should be some kind of, that we're on the verge of a second civil war. This is the single most frightening poll result I've been associated with, said Rich Thu, president of Ignatius, one of the 3 firms, along with Sports and Leisure Research and ROKK Solutions, that sponsored the survey. Thao said that the partisan tensions have been bubbling below the surface or just above for some time, and that the divisions are being ruptured further by a pandemic over which both sides disagree on the severity and response, and an election in which both sides view each other as hardened combatants. And this is true. This pandemic has been a political football since the beginning. I remember the cruise ship starting, and it was beginning to be a political football at that time. So what's the consequence of that? How bad does it get, said Thao, who has been holding focus groups with battleground state voters as part of the Swing Voter Project. You've got people on the far left with guns and people on the far right with guns, and an unwillingness of political elites to condemn this. People are girding themselves for something awful to happen. The poll doesn't define what a civil war would look like. Would it be armed confrontation in some areas or just widespread protests? Would it involve economic boycotts or simply family members and friends who no longer speak to each other?
Be nice if we could have a peaceful civil war somehow.
Right. It doesn't. I mean, family members not speaking to each other would be about as peaceful as you could get in this, but that's basically election season. There are people that are in my friendship circles that I simply do not want to speak to right now. I'll talk to them after the elections. I'll pat them on the back and I'll tell them, there, it's going to be okay. But beforehand, I do not want this shrillness, this ramping up that'll occur right in front of me as they get more and more wrapped up in whatever partisan bullcrap they've been watching on cable news or consuming on the internet or whatever they say about this guy or that guy being super bad, I'm not going to put up with that in my. Look, I talk to idiots for 3 hours a night right here. You can call, and whatever drunk moron wants to call in and talk about whatever they want, I've got to talk to them because that's what my job is. I'm not doing that in my real life for nothing. No, hell no. I'm not inviting you over to my house so you can get all whipped up about your particular favorite crooked old pervert. Thanks, but no thanks.
Who goes to someone else's house and brings up an election in which they disagree with the person whose house it is? Who does that?
Like a lot of people these days, I'm afraid.
Why?
Because this is the most important election of our lifetimes.
That's right. As will the next election be also the most important. It's possible that every election is more important than the last election, thus the most important.
What are they even going to do after this one? Like, how are you going to make the next election more important than this one?
If you haven't seen the movie Idiocracy, then you should view it, because it is possible for it to devolve even further. I think that the best solution here is just eliminate much of the power that the federal government has. The president should be so inconsequential to all of this that it doesn't really matter. Should be a functionary, not God King for 4 years. And that's, it shouldn't make a difference. In fact, I don't think it does make a difference.
Because that's the two things you definitely want to mix together is high time preference and unlimited power.
Yeah. Well, there you go. David called back. I didn't see it while I was reading the article. Anyway, thanks for listening. Check out freetalklive.com. Go there, sign up for our Telegram channel. You can sign up for our newsletter too. It's all available to you for free at freetalklive.com.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had got involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be a part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream for people to use it for everyday payments, we need a new architecture. One that is as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, Mark at freetalklive.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
Ready to get back on the campaign trail. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. President Trump says he feels great, even saying he's immune after being treated for COVID-19. A White House doctor says the president no longer needs to be in isolation.
But the White House has yet to say if the president is testing negative for coronavirus. We're still waiting to get that. We may get an indication about that tomorrow. We're also waiting to see how many, if any, of the White House staff that tested positive, if they'll be coming back to work in this new week. The president, though, Trump, he has a busy week ahead of him, multiple campaign stops. It starts tomorrow in Sanford, Florida, right outside Orlando.
Fox's Mark Meredith. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden also back on the campaign trail tomorrow.
Joe Biden is making 2 campaign stops in Ohio tomorrow, and that's significant because until recently, his campaign has really not put much attention there. Instead, they've been putting their time, their resources into nearby battlegrounds like Michigan and Pennsylvania, which were seen as more winnable and would maybe bleed over into that state. But President Trump carried Ohio in 2016, and it's seen as a crucial state for his reelection. And Biden's play is following a recent poll, which shows about 7% of voters there are undecided.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich. The Senate Judiciary Committee begins confirmation hearings tomorrow for Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett. Republicans hope to confirm her before the election. Democrats say it should wait until after.
Topics that are going to be discussed over the next few days: abortion, gun rights, immigration, also health care. Now, Democrats expected to heavily focus on health care during Barrett's hearing. Her views on the Affordable Care Act, well known and documented. She's no fan of that act. Democrats worry that Republicans want to get rid of the ACA in the middle of this pandemic.